Hello and welcome to another Retro Crazy. This is part 2 of, well, I suppose it's a mini series on the Commodore A2000. In part 1 we looked at this, I stripped it, took out all the caps, replaced them, replaced the socket for the Alice. Yeah, I managed to score the Alice chip. That happens, and again, thank you Sparks UK for the donation to the channel of the Alice chip. Beautiful. And I also recapped the power supply, tested that, and at the end of part 1 we powered this up and we got the classic Workbench version 1.3 display. Superb, really chuffed about that. In part 2 there are still some things to address, and while I had this partially assembled in part 1 at the end, I did say it had to come back out. I want to address the gap left by the Varta battery. Now, no, I'm not putting another Varta battery on. I'm going to use a modern update. Yes, I know I normally try and keep these as is, however this is worthwhile. It's minimal intrusion and it will make this a little bit more future-proof and less likely for the lovely corrosion to take place again. And I'm going to fit this very small dinky holder for the CR2032 batteries. They're fully replaceable. The holder sits on a little circuit board which has 3 legs, 2 positives and a negative, and on the underside there's a resistor and a diode, and what this does is stop this 2032 being charged by the Amiga, because trying to charge one of these will probably end up in another explosion of a different type. So this is a direct replacement. It just drops in, gets soldered on, drop in the CR2032, and we've got a real-time clock back. So let me flip the board over and we'll start by soldering this in. So with that done, we can now drop the motherboard back into its chassis. And with that all done, we can pop the 2000 to the side temporarily. So I've already lifted them off of the 2000 casing, just a couple of screws either side. However, yeah, a lot of these are loose, not quite fitting properly. We'll see what we can do to repair some of this, but I want to get in, get the heads clean, get the mechanism done, lubricated, so that hopefully these will just work. So I'm going to start off by stripping the screws underneath, get this plate off, and then we can have a look at each drive individually. This post has snapped. What's left of it is here. I'll need to see if I can find another standoff that we can replace this with. If not, it'll go back in as is. That's not screwing in, so I'm going to guess, yep, completely stripped. It's also different from all the others. So it looks like somebody has forced this in to get it to work, which is a shame. This is also a different colour. Maybe this has been replaced as well. So we'll start with this drive. I'm not looking to change any of the settings on the drive. I just want to get the mechanism clean, make sure this still runs. and from what I can see, 2 screws on the back. So the mechanism itself is very clean. Very, very, very clean. I'm quite surprised. I would go as far as to say somebody else has been in and cleaned this, because even the grease looks very clean and fresh. So I'm just going to use a cotton bud, some isopropyl alcohol, and we'll clean the heads. With that done, let's move on to the second drive. So hopefully you can see that, ignore my dirty and cracked nails. Very, very damaged, and both screws in the drive were loose. This one on the other hand shows no signs of fresh grease, and it's certainly a bit dirtier. But still, not that bad. So with that all done, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to pop this out and see if we can extract this broken section. Okay, unfortunately that's in there quite well. Sometimes when these break, using something like a very fine screwdriver bit, you can push them around and unscrew them. This is absolutely rock solid. There's no movement at all. I can't even cut a slot in the top because there's just no real part of it that's sticking past enough. And drilling will probably go very wrong. I'm not willing to damage the bracket, just trying to take this out. So unfortunately I'm going to have to leave it. Somebody's obviously made quite a mess of it, filed that down so that it just kind of sits on and acts as a brace. So I'm just going to have to leave it and do the same, unfortunately. So let's pop this on. I'll see if I've got a replacement standoff that's maybe got a thread and see what happens there. So unfortunately at this time I cannot seem to find any of my standoffs on my PC screws. A little bit annoying. So temporarily that's going to have to just sit there to act as a bit of a brace. Oh well. So let's now try and pop these back together. Great, that's it all done. They're ready to go back in. Right, so drives are back in, everything's just loosely assembled. The motherboard is now fully in because that seems to be working. He said hopefully, in hopes he doesn't have to actually take it back out. So let us find out what happens when we power it on. Well, we know what should happen. However, we're going to be trying Workbench 1.3.2. I do not know if this disk works. I don't even know which is DF0, which is DF1. I'm hoping we get some sort of response. I do have my second camera set up, currently looking at the monitor because I've rejigged everything. I'm not really 100% happy. I'm going to have to change again, but hey, that's one of those things. So let's see what happens. We should hopefully still get a display, which we do. F0. Nothing. Okay. DF0. Oh, we've got a movement on the screen. Drive seems to be running. I currently do not have a keyboard or a mouse plugged in, and the other drive just pinged. And I can see an Amiga DOS workbench screen. Do we finish the load? Saturday, 13th of November 2004. Not so sure about that. It's remarkably quiet other than the fan. F1 apparently is bad. According to the display, but wow, I've got Workbench 1.3. Oh goodness, I have not seen that since my 500. That's astounding. That's amazing. Yeah, we got a display. Holy, yeah. Let's not swear. Okay. Superb. But that, again, it caught me a bit by surprise. This machine is just doing that. Right, so let's pop the disc out. Pop this safely to the side. I am going to switch off, just so you can hear me above the noise of the fan. Okay, the DF1 is saying it's bad. Maybe, don't know. This drive does seem to work, but I'm not finished, because the whole point of a 2000, the big box Amigas, is these are supposed to be expandable and you can do a whole bunch with. I mean, look, we've got slots, we've got things that can happen in here. So one of the first things I'm going to look at is hidden in here. This is a terrible fire accelerator. So here we go. One terrible fire running a 68020 processor. So this should give a little bit of a speed boost, and it directly replaces the existing 6800. We pop the 6800 out, and if I'm careful, this will drop in directly into the socket and give us the 68020. So the card is now installed. You can just see it tucked away down here. I've got the original 6800 sat ready. Let's see, first of all, if we get a display on screen. Might help if I put the power on. We are still getting a workbench screen. Superb. We've now hopefully installed the Terrible Fire 520. I've reconnected the power, so I've now got a power LED showing on the front here. It'll show up against my finger. It's green. If not to worry. So what else can we do? Well, I also, at the same time as purchasing the TF520, picked up another couple of things, one of which is this GottaGoFast RAM 2000 by Live2. This, I have been told, I need to install as far away from a terrible fire as possible, so I'm just going to pop this over here. It does have a marking saying front, so this should be the ideal place. Oh wow, okay. I'm going to have to stand up for this. There we go. So that's in, it's quite rigid. Fingers crossed, we will still get a poster display. Excellent. So I'm going to drop in Workbench.
And what I'm hoping for here is that at the top of the screen, once it's loaded, it should give us a memory indicator. I need to set the clock properly because it is keeping the time. It's now showing Monday. It was Sunday yesterday on it. Yes, I'm not doing these one after the other. I'm recording them in the short time I get, putting my daughter to bed, and me actually going to bed. So I've got to be careful because technically she's asleep or going to sleep in the room directly above. And that's showing quite a considerable amount more free memory. Let me see if I can move the camera a little bit. So hopefully at the top you can now see it's a lot of memory it's now showing. So that's excellent. That's confirming that it's detecting the memory and that it's using it. So that's absolutely superb. Well, have I finished? Not really. So I've got this lovely faster processor and I've got all the memory that potentially I could ever want, but I'm sure there's more we can do.
When I purchased the Terrible Fire and then I purchased this shortly after, I bought something else with this, and that was this AT bus clone card. Now this hopefully will give us the use of a compact flash. I haven't got a compact flash set up yet, but that'll come. That really doesn't stop me from being able to plug it in. And again, you'll see it's clearly marked front and rear. And I was told that this should be a good sort of middle ground place. Furthest away from the CPU, middle of the road, so it should be pretty much anywhere here. So let's pop this in, and this will probably be equally as tight. There we go. And it does have a space on the top for a hard drive LED, which is what this extra lead is. And it is marked positive, negative, so I can connect that up. And the theory is hopefully the hard drive LED will work when the compact flash is being accessed. So I'm going to power on, I'm going to make sure everything is still stable and that it still shows all the memory. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm getting nothing from that at all. I'm going to power off. I'm going to try moving it over one and see what happens. There we go. obviously did not like that port, so hopefully that's now running as it should, just without a compact flash card. So let's power this off at the moment, because obviously I could boot up into Workbench, it's not going to show anything. Now I do have to give a big shout out to Sparks UK. You'll find him on Gadget UK's Discord channel. I purchased all 3 items from him and they were all assembled by him. So thank you very much, Sparks. So at the moment I've nothing to plug into this, so we'll need to come back and revisit this later. So it's a day and a half later, and you may note that all the cards are back out. I no longer have the memory module, the bus controller, and not even the Terrible Fire expansion card. We've had a bit of an update, and this has come back to bite me, unfortunately. The floppy drive stopped registering, which was a bit strange. It will detect the disk, it'll take it in, it'll try and go through the process of powering up. However, it will not boot the Workbench disk. So yeah, you might see another problem as well. So in goes the Workbench disk, drive's detected, tries to power up and kicks back to here. And the second problem, you saw that screen, which is not good. So somewhere on here, potentially we've got some corrosion, and seeing as the battery sits originally right here and right next to it is the CPU, yeah, we're going to suggest that somewhere under that CPU socket is some hidden corrosion. So the socket is going to have to come off and be replaced. Now I did check on Gadget UK's Discord, because big box Amigas are brand new to me. I was told about another number of things to try, removing a jumper to try and get the DF1 bad to disappear, but no, that's not the issue. I have re-cleaned the head for the drive that was working, no change. I've swapped over the CIA chips, which are up at the back, no change again. So yeah, now it's time to swap that CPU socket. And there we are, that's it out, just the one leg left behind, but it was actually loose and came out, so it's obviously, I think, just been a loose fit in the socket. And lost now, but yeah, it all came out, no problem. The secret is using flux. I'm using the Topnic RF800, which is really watery. It's designed for SMD soldering, but it really runs in everywhere. And lower heat, my desoldering station was down at 330. I normally run at about 400, so I'm not trying to put too much heat in the board. And the nice thing is I did not lift a single pad, but I can see a lot of discoloration on the sides. So yeah, going to need a little bit of cleanup, and then once that's done, I'm in two minds at the moment whether to install a turn pin or to wait for the other sockets I've got coming to put it back to stock, because I'm not going to be using this socket. So once I've cleaned it up and put everything in, it's really going to be more for the fact that it's original. I'm conscious of how long this video is currently taking, so I'm going to stop here. As I'm still awaiting some parts, part 3 will be out depending on when they all get here and I actually do get time to record. Regardless, there will be a video in 2 weeks' time, although technically after this video you do realise I am tempting fate again. So thank you for watching, please remember to like and subscribe, liking is very important, and I'll see you on the next Retro Crazy.